Hello, everyone. I'm Faven. I'm the host of the Sunday Service podcast. I know we've been gone for a while, but we really wanted to bring a special guest for you guys today. And today's episode is very special because I know I say this all the time, but today really makes us think consciously about our upbringing and how it influences our current life and lifestyle and choices. So we have today with us Mishawn, who is a generational pattern therapist, and today to talk to us about what does this consist of, right? And how it impacts us throughout our life. So, Mishawn, please introduce yourself further and tell our audience a little bit about you.
Am a mother of four. I'm married for almost 20 years. I am a motivational speaker, a life coach, and an author. And I feel like my purpose is helping people really
Mhm.
step into theirs and helping them overcome any limiting beliefs or anything that's holding them back from living their greatest life.
I love that how you stated that your purpose is to help people live their best life, but
Totally.
through addressing
Yes.
generational pattern, right? And
Hmm.
I even found myself, right? I've been thinking a lot, and sometimes I find myself being unbalanced, right? And a little bit being in a battle with myself. At times, I have to ask myself, what is going on with me spiritually? What is going on with me mentally? And when I sat down and evaluated, I had to ask myself, okay, how was my upbringing? What behaviors am I implementing now in my life that I was not aware of, that maybe my parents did, or my father did, or my aunts did? And I was very passionate about this interviewing you because I know this is something that impacts all of us, and we're not really conscious about it, but when we become conscious, we're more intentional about how we want to implement certain behaviors within our own growing families,
Right.
how we want to be intentional throughout life. So I'm very excited that you're here, and I'm sure that our guests are excited that you are here as well. So I'm going to begin with our first question. I know you shared a little bit about yourself. So can you share a little bit about your upbringing and how it shaped your journey into becoming a generational pattern life coach?
Well, growing up, there was a bit of dysfunction. My dad drank quite a bit. There was a lot of cigarette smoking, yelling, cussing, a lot of fighting. And then when I sat back, I looked at my dad's dad and they did the same thing. And then I found out that his dad did the same thing. And I said, okay, there's something here. And I didn't know how to be more normal, but I knew what they were doing wasn't right. So it just kind of led me to think there's a better way because I see people living a better life. So let me figure that out. I may not be, kind of, I feel like I'm a part of my family, but I just
Mhm.
felt so much different, like a black sheep, if that makes sense.
I can understand that perspective. So how did that impact you during your childhood of being raised within that type of environment? And did you experience any type of emotions, any type of, personality challenges, like, having imposter syndrome and so on, and just feeling like you couldn't connect with your family members?
Totally. I felt like, I was the youngest child, but I was really the most outspoken. I almost felt like a fish out of water around my family because I wanted to invite friends over, but I couldn't because of, the fighting. I know that when things weren't right, I would be the one to speak up and be
Mhm.
like, something's not right, and I'd get in trouble or, face consequences. But I had that fight. And I said, this isn't really the life that I want. I don't want to, because at first I didn't want to be married because I thought if you cuss
Yeah.
and fight and scream, and, who wants that? And then your kids are in a room crying. And I'm like, this isn't the way I thought that life should be.
No, I completely understand that. Just definitely changing your perspective about what family looks like, what a healthy family looks like, right?
You're
What a
fine.
healthy family looks like, right? Because we see
Right.
it on TV.
Yeah.
And sometimes we see it even through our friends' family members. And you're like, does this really exist? Like,
Yes.
or am
Yes.
I just not really blessed enough, or and sometimes am I cursed, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
you think these things. And similarly for me, I didn't really grow up in a household that was best for me mentally or
Hmm.
emotionally, and
Hmm.
that definitely impacted me throughout life to the point where I didn't really even understand my behaviors until I got into a relationship. I didn't really
Hmm.
even understand my level of self esteem, my level of self love for myself until I had to sit there and be like, okay, your parents raised you this way. Obviously, this happened, but that does not define you. How are you going to
Yes.
change this? How are you going to address the things you don't like that you are, implementing into your life that you see your parents
Yes.
have did as well? And how do you create a better lifestyle or mentality for yourself and family? And for me, I challenge myself every day because I'm learning as I
Hmm.
go.
Hmm.
And dysfunction, just any, even if it relates to friendship or family, I just
Hmm.
instantly, my body's like, oh, this is a
Yeah,
warning sign. I need to step
exactly.
away. And
Exactly.
I love how you spoke about.
Let me add something about the imposter syndrome because I thought that was very interesting. This is something because what was hard for me is growing up in a household like that, you are quiet. You learn to pretend really well and you make it look like everything is perfect on the outside, but on the inside, things may be just like it's Hades, like hell is
Mhm.
breaking loose, but outside you're like,
Yeah,
"Hi, how are you?" And I didn't know how to be vulnerable. I didn't feel comfortable being vulnerable or that my emotions matter. And to this day, sometimes I have to force myself to be open. And that was something that was out of my comfort zone. But a quick story, my husband, when we were dating, I was like, "Are you sure?" That's how I felt, like he thought I was attractive, all the things. But I was like, I don't know if I am good enough
Mhm.
because that hadn't been instilled in me in childhood because my mom, she had the same issue. My dad wasn't very confident. They pretended that they were, but then they raised kids that kind of, fit where they came from and generationally. So when I looked up, I had prayed for my husband, but I was nervous to know it was I even good enough for him.
yeah,
And it was
yeah.
that's such a confusing thing to be in.
It is, especially as a woman. And I feel like we're relating so much, and you're touching on so many bases that I experienced just throughout life, especially in relationships. I used to find myself being like shy, not even being able to be open enough to be like, this person won't understand me. Like, this person won't accept who I am. And thinking, being and having the perspective or the behavior of just being shy and quiet, but really I was just in my head.
Hmm.
And I was just thinking about how do I escape this type of family structure?
Hmm.
How do I survive it?
Hmm.
Because
That's right.
you're not even really fighting against your own thoughts or in your own way of living. You're fighting against your childhood patterns
Mhm.
that have been instilled into
Mhm.
you.
That's right.
And you have to unlayer one piece at a time because it's
That's
so
right.
much, right? It's
It
through
is.
childhood to through adulthood. That really hit home when you said that because I really thought I was the only individual who used to have those thoughts, and that in time I overcame it because now I can laugh about it, not in a sense of like making fun of myself about it, but like,
Mhm.
hey, I overcame that. Like,
That's right.
I am good enough for anybody, and anybody
Right.
would be lucky to have me. So
That's
it's
right.
just overcoming
Right.
that. I love this topic that you just discussed right now.
Yeah.
So, how did the losses and challenges you faced within your family impact your mission and work? Impact your mission and work today?
It started everything. When I was going for a walk, I say not too long ago, maybe 6 months ago, I was going for a walk and I was so angry. You know how you felt like there was a separation? Sometimes you love God, you're supposed to trust him, but you're
Mhm.
angry. And you
Yeah,
kind of feel like stepping away. It's like I need a break, but that's what you need. It's like a lifeline. And it's like this,
yeah.
and so what happened, I was going for a walk and I cried and I just said, God, why was I born into this family? Why did I go through what I went through? Both of my parents are gone. My brother's gone, and the other one is dealing with the legal system. Everybody's gone. And God dropped something in my spirit that was so powerful. He said, the reason that you are where you are is because you listen. You listen to what I say and you do it. I warned every one of them and they didn't listen. And when he
Mhm.
said that, I felt almost like a peace. Not that I was, like, oh, yay, because it was still a little painful, but it
Mhm.
gave me perspective that everybody has a choice. And what makes one person different than another person in a family system, it boils down to choices. That's really what it is,
Yeah.
beliefs and choices. And just kind of locking in and letting the Holy Spirit, some people may call it the intuition, letting that be your guide. Because that's the truth. That's the experience that I had, and that's really what led me to to turn a challenge into something that could be a blessing for other people to help them make better choices.
Yes, yes, yes. Through your own experience and getting that message from
Oh yeah.
God.
It
Yeah,
was
yeah.
so, I
And
was like,
wanting
oh
a
my gosh.
change, and wanting a change deeply inside.
Yes. Yes. It was
That's very
amazing.
powerful. And that's your experience that you can
Yes.
take with you, at the end of
Mm-hmm.
the day.
Mm-hmm.
So for those that struggle with generational pattern, I don't want to say trauma because that's just a negative perspective, and that doesn't help somebody overcome that.
Right.
So for somebody dealing with that currently, they don't know how to take the steps to find themselves, to set the boundaries and find a way to be away from that. What can they do?
The first thing that I help clients with, and even what I did for myself, is I had to get that separation. You can't heal if you're being exposed, I'm sorry, to the same things that cause the harm.
Mm.
You have to separate yourself and just allow yourself time to heal.
Yes.
And I think a lot of times we think that we need to almost like, dealing with the generational issues, be a people pleaser, or I
Yeah.
want to disappoint them. I don't want to hurt them.
Yeah.
So, but the thing is, you have to create boundaries, and it starts with self care, self love to say, let me step away so I can heal. And
Yes.
that's the first step, just identifying that there's an issue. And then what do I need to do to heal? And that a lot of times you got to step away. You can't be a part of the same system that caused the hurt and the harm and the
Yes,
issue.
that's true. It's just stepping away, as you said,
Stepping
choosing
away.
yourself, setting
Hmm.
boundaries. And that really is the first stage in
Hmm.
breaking away from the cycle and saying, I choose me. I
Yes.
choose my future family. I choose
Yes.
my sanity. I choose
Hmm.
my peace. And you just made me remember the time where at one point in my life I was in therapy.
Hmm.
And that was because I was at the lowest point in my life after having a miscarriage, dealing with fibroids, and
Hmm.
just feeling like I wanted to change, but I just didn't know how to go about it. And then seeing the
Right.
dysfunction of my family and feeling like
Hmm.
my spirit just doesn't feel settled. My spirit
Hmm.
feels like I want to get away. Um, and one thing I can remember my therapist telling me was, why am I so scared to set boundaries? Why am I
Hmm.
so scared to choose myself? Is it, and I had to ask myself, and I think it was because I'm a very compassionate person. And I just felt like if I disattached, that I'll be leaving my family, and that
Hmm.
I had that guilt remorse where I felt like I'm leaving them there to suffer
Right.
while I came out of it. And so that made me remember when you said that. But at the same time, it's a powerful experience because, as you said, you're thinking about yourself and your sanity. If you're not here, how are you going to be able to help your family members or your friends or influence them? And then how are you going to be able to plan for your future family?
Let me touch on something that you said about when you step away, and kind of what I said too. When you step away, you're letting them down, you're hurting them. How can you be that comfort for them? But you know what? They're grown too. And if they want to have a better life and they want to go towards healing, they should be doing the same work that you're doing. And so, or they could choose a different way. It's not our job to fix somebody. They
That's
have to
true.
choose that, and they have to step into that healing for themselves. And so, one thing that helped me release that burden of being a fixer is everybody's responsible for themselves.
Mm.
If you want joy, you're responsible for joy. If you want whatever, that's your responsibility because you are grown.
Yes, 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 yes. As you said, we come together when it's like this. Once we are whole, we come together, and the
That's right.
puzzles
Hmm.
come together. That even applies to relationships. That's
Hmm.
very important in relationship factors because if one is healed, but one is still finding themselves, which is okay. Sometimes we
Right.
all need guidance. But if we haven't let go of the things that are impacting us and are still continuing that negative behaviors or traumas that we experience as children, it just lingers on to your
Hmm.
family, right?
Hmm.
It means that we're
Hmm.
not conscious about that.
That's right.
So, what are some common self-limiting beliefs you encounter in your clients, and how do you help them overcome these?
I wrote some down here. A lot of them feel like they are, like we said, not worthy, not good enough. It's like growing up, we miss
Yeah.
where they would, you should be so proud of yourself, and that reassurance, and that, building that self-confidence because, we grew up in environments that didn't foster that. So
Yeah.
you grow up as an adult and you're looking for that and you don't know how to give that to yourself. So that's one of the things, being a people pleaser,
Hmm.
always kind of putting yourself second, feeling like I need to be a martyr, I need to be selfless. And then you run around looking tore up and exhausted, and everybody else is,
Yeah.
go do this for me, and it's
Yeah.
just like, that's no way to live either. Also, the fear of failure. Some people feel like if I step away from this relationship, if I get out of this family system and really go out there on my own, will I have that support?
Yeah.
Because sometimes you want, even though your mom or your dad or your grandma or siblings maybe, have their issues, at least that's still family. So I'm
Yes.
scared that if I step away from that, how will those relationships change? And so, really, just focusing too on, people want something new.
Hmm.
Like, you want to create a family, you want to create something that's like reauthoring your generations to come.
Yeah.
And people want something new, they just don't know how to start. What
Yes.
do? I didn't see it. I didn't live it. All I saw, it was, I watched it on TV or my friends, but otherwise I don't even know how to start being that person and create that family because I didn't experience that. So how do I start that? So those
How
are
do I
some of the
start that
things.
journey? Yeah.
Hmm.
And I love that you emphasize on like how do I think that's the part that's very difficult, right? It's not the fear of wanting change. That's one part of the journey. But
Right.
it's never seeing it, right? Never seeing a healthy relationship, never seeing a healthy family function or
Right.
pattern or behaviors. It's just gathering and then being always around some form of dysfunction, right?
Right.
And even the brain at some point starts to accept these type of outings or these type of engagements where it becomes a norm, right? So, and I agree with you when it comes to like cussing and drinking. Like now, even
Hmm.
when I see somebody cursing, I'm like, I just cringe, and I'm like, why?
Right.
Why are you cursing?
Right.
Like why?
Exactly.
We have other words we can use. Like
Right.
there's so many things. Not judging. I'm not a person that's
Right.
so stuck up, but at the same time, like, were you hurt? Did you hit your knees against something?
Right.
Like what happened? Like
Yeah.
did you run against the wall? Like those are things
Right.
because it's natural. Like
Right.
ow, something happened, but
Right.
like cursing because of you're frustrated, not being able to manage your emotions. And I
Hmm.
love that you said that, at the end of the day is not knowing how to do it. And I think like in our community, especially in the African American community, where we're impacted by a lot of generational patterns and not breaking the cycle. We don't really have mentors like you or coach as much out here. There's some, but like really
Hmm.
pushing that agenda and
Right.
saying, no, you can break out of the pattern. No,
Right.
you can literally take layers of yourself that are not beneficial to you and rebuild yourself and deliver that new person to yourself and your growing family,
That's
or
right.
even if it's not even a family, but your relationship with everybody else and yourself.
Yes,
um
that is so true. When I had to, like, getting married, I had to look at this like, okay, I know where I came from. How can I do something different? And I almost turned my vision into being a creator.
mm,
So I did the whole vision boards, I did journaling, I did visualization before that was even really a thing because I was like, I know what I want and I know the type of young individuals I want to raise. So what do I need to do? And as I created that in my mind, I started fixing myself because
mm,
that's really where it starts. If I'm healed, then we'll stop, hurting people and the next generation won't have to work and write a
yeah.
book. I'm just playing. Not that they write a book about their parents, but
They still
they
gotta
won't
do
have.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That it won't keep going where each generation has to heal. The change starts with you. It starts with me. And that's why you rebuild generations based off what you do today.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's about being intentional, fixing yourself first, and not
Yes.
fixing it if there's something wrong with you, but being mindful, okay, what attributes do I have that I like?
Right.
What behaviors do I notice that I'm not managing? What
Right.
behaviors do I have that's beneficial to me and the people around me?
Mm-hmm.
And those are things I'm even starting to evaluate,
Mm-hmm.
in my life. I would say that the periods in my life initially, I was very patient, right? Quiet, really felt like, okay, being quiet and listening means that I'm not causing a problem, right?
Right.
I'm not causing a fight. So, But that's not good when you're communicating with people because they can feel like you're ignoring them.
Mm-hmm.
But really, you're like, I just want to keep the peace. Like,
Right.
I
Right.
just want to keep
Right.
the peace. But as you said, it's finding the boundaries of, okay, this is healthy communication. Making sure you are actively listening to somebody, but at
Right.
the same time, making sure that you heard too.
Mm-hmm.
But it's at the end of the day, it's all about healthy communication, right? And at
Mm-hmm.
times, we all get upset sometimes. We all are not always, in management of our emotions, but it's like catching it and being like, okay, I can't act like that again.
That's
I
right.
can't be reactive like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, as you said, if you know
Mm-hmm.
yourself, you know what things lead you to enact in the destructive behaviors, or things that help you be able to interact in a healthy manner. Is
Mm-hmm.
just knowing what type of environment to be in, what type of people to surround yourself with,
Mm-hmm.
and pouring back into yourself, whether it's through therapy, meditation,
Mm-hmm.
giving. It's not just like going to get our nails done. It's not
That's
just
right.
having self-care. It's about, no, what are you doing for yourself? Like, what have you done for
Mm-hmm.
yourself today? What have you done for yourself this whole year, right? And
Yes.
especially as mothers, we're constantly giving and
Mm-hmm.
giving and giving.
Mm-hmm.
Especially
Mm-hmm.
as entrepreneurs, we're constantly thinking about what's next, right? Even when
Right.
we're sleeping, we're not really sleeping. Our mind's still constantly
Yes,
going,
it is.
right? And then we live in a life where, like, things can change in a second, right? If you're not
Mm-hmm.
taking care of yourself, you can
Mm-hmm.
develop health issues. You can
Right.
have mental health issues if you're not taking care of
Mm-hmm.
yourself. So
Mm-hmm.
it's, what are you doing to give back to yourself? What are you doing to give back to your mental health, your spirit, and just
Mm-hmm.
your being as a whole? How can individuals identify and break from destructive family patterns?
Sure. You can look at what is the source of all the drama in your
Mm,
family? Where'd it come from? And then you can create a solution based off of that. Because I know that the source of mine, my dad drank a lot. Okay, that created the issue and that created lack of communication, confidence, self esteem,
mm,
all these other. I think if you know, you have to attack the issue head on. What caused all the issues? Was it the way your mother or your father communicated with you? Was it the fighting? What was it that was the source of the issue? Because everything else outside of that, it's an effect. So if you can deal with the actual cause, you get to the source and then create solutions. You don't know what to do if you don't know what the issue is. I know from my family system, from generations, it was alcoholism, which created all of the issues.
mm,
But the source was that. So I'm like, okay, well, so that shows me I don't need to look for other things outside of me to cope.
mm,
I don't need to look for pacifiers, something to externally make me feel better, get some type of coping mechanism. Let me heal from the inside out versus the outside in. So I think
mm,
a really important thing is just what's the issue?
mm.
I really know that just dealing with the source of the issues, it's uncomfortable. And sometimes, you think it's that or it's that, but really it could be this, which caused all of these other issues.
Yeah. Yeah, as you said, the little things can be bigger issues in the future, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's really, as you said, analyzing, okay, what is the root cause of
Mm-hmm.
this problem and
Mm-hmm.
how can I address it? And as you stated, it's hard sometimes. You might not even notice that there is a problem, and a person might not notice that they're engaging in the behavior until somebody's like, hey, do you know you do this?
Right.
Like, do you know that you're this way, but then you act
Mm-hmm.
that way sometimes? And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, it's the hardest part sometimes is taking accountability because
Yeah.
sometimes you might not even be aware or you just don't want to accept it because then it means you have to change, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have to
Mm-hmm.
change those things. And it's just part of life. It's just a cycle that goes. So I'm happy that you spoke about that in a manner that identifying the root issue and then changing
Let me add something to this, which is kind of not
it.
exactly addressing the question. It's just an add on.
Okay.
One thing that I realized, and I've helped other people see too, is while you're going through this healing journey of discovery and what was the source, also really focus on forgiveness of them. Because I realized My mom, when she, lacked doing something about the situations or her responses, my dad's responses, they really didn't know any better. All they could do was respond based off the knowledge and the wisdom they had at the time, and we can't make people change. We can't. So just really stop trying to control someone else and just really focus on forgiveness, which, as we know, it doesn't mean I'm going to be your best friend and everything you did was perfect. It's just lollipops and rainbows. Like, I'm not going to stop this from letting me create what I want in my family. I'm not going to let this block me, because if you do, you're just going to relive the same thing that you're from.
Yes.
Whether it may not be alcohol, it could be something else. So if you fully let that go, because it's no longer serving you, it's no longer feeding where you're going, it's like a weight. It's like 100-pound weight strapped to your back, and you're trying to sprint. You're trying to create, but you can't create out of anger. You can't create out
Mm.
of fear or lack. You create from a whole different mindset, a different perspective. So I just challenge people, what can you do to let it go? And one thing I did is I wrote my mom, even after she passed away, I wrote her a letter and I forgave her and I spoke to
Mm.
her and I said, I love you anyway. And thank you for what you did give me. And for what you lack, I'm sorry that you were raised the way you were, but thank you for
Mm.
trying to do the best you could do. And I just let it go. And the same with my dad. I just let it go. Just a healing. That was part of the healing
Yeah.
process.
Just releasing, right? It's that sense of like sending it
Releasing.
away,
Yes.
closing the chapter. And that's
Mm-hmm.
powerful, as you said, because in your mind, that creates like we are people that like to visualize things, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So by doing that, you allowed your mind to say, okay, it's done. I've dealt with it. We're
Yes.
at peace. So I do love that
Mm-hmm.
approach
Mm-hmm.
that you suggested. So the next question is, what role does self care play in overcoming dysfunctional family dynamics?
Self care is everything. When you really, I think self care is saying, I'm worthy, I'm important, I matter. My body matters, my health matters, me as a person, I'm worthy. And so taking that time out to go do something special for yourself, go love on yourself. If it's getting your nails done, meditating, yoga, running, whatever that is, journaling, just talking to your friend on the phone and just venting, whatever that is. I think it's important, because if you don't take care of yourself, who's behind you to do it? You're married, but your husband's going to do, they're going to do that. They may be there for a little bit and say, it'll be okay. But ultimately, it's you and you.
Mm.
It's you and you. So, the person that you truly are, when you shut out the entire world, you put your phone down, you get off the internet and the TV and away from everything, doesn't that person deserve love?
Yes.
And if you think that, walk in that and embrace, because you are worthy, because in the end, all you have is you.
As you said, we come in this world by ourselves, we go out
By
by ourselves,
ourselves.
and it's
Yeah.
important to really understand that, being present and giving yourself time on top of like, other priorities in life, or like, other responsibilities that we may have. It's very important, to really
Mhm.
engage in self-care. And one thing is the definition of self-care really has changed over time. I'm noticing that when some of us think about self-care, we think is getting our nails done, doing
Mhm.
our hair,
Right.
facial, but we
Right.
really don't talk about in-depth practices, which is like mindfulness,
That's
right?
right.
It could be you reading a book if that's what you enjoy,
That's right.
closing your eyes and laying in the bed and just being present. It could
Mhm.
be going running. It could be so many things, but it
Mhm.
really differs for each person. And it's about giving back to yourself and feeding your soul. Your soul is you. That's your inner
That's
self.
right. That's
and
right.
and, and that's how we're able to come back and excel in life, but really be feel whole as a person.
Just kind of piggybacking on what you're saying, that's why I think a lot of people may not do real self-care, and they may go get their hair done, they may get their nails done, and all these external things, because they don't feel comfortable being alone with themselves. They start thinking, and those negative thoughts come about, and they don't know how to deal with that dialogue. They don't know how to rest and let those thoughts just pass through. It's just, they almost, when they're alone, they almost start judging themselves or feeling those, emotions that may not feel so comforting. So let me get on my phone. Instead of dealing with what I feel and addressing it, let me get on my phone. Let me go do something outside of me so I
Mm.
can feel comfortable. Because being alone with me, that's hard.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard for people to just sit with themselves and say, "What's going on, girl?" A lot of people don't like that because those thoughts,
Mm.
the way they
Yes.
feel.
You have
And
to
so
entertain
addressing
them. You
those
have
real
to, yeah.
things, that's right. That's right. So just kind of self-care, like you said, it's more of an internal thing, but it's really about feeling comfortable with you.
Yes. And not feeling guilty about pouring back into yourself. I know that um just as individuals, but mainly as moms, I
Mm-hmm.
used to have like guilt just when I'm away from my son, and I still do sometimes, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm noticing that the older he's getting is getting less, right? And I'm like, oh no,
Mm-hmm.
you got to pour back to yourself because he's going to be 18 one day and he's going to be
That's
gone.
right.
And you
What
don't
are you
want to
gonna
be
do?
worn out and you don't want to be
Mm-hmm.
not taking
Mm-hmm.
care of yourself or not pouring into yourself because that doesn't just impact us as individuals, it impacts your relationships in life, impacts your drive for your future, your goals,
That's
your
right.
mindset, and all of those things. And it's very important to just be mindful about that and just, it's okay to have your time. It's okay to have your time away from everybody else and not feel guilty about it.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Let me tell you something real quick. Today, I'm on Central Standard Time. I know you're on Eastern Time. And I was
Oh,
like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do it today. I was talking to my
I
son because I have this to do and that to do. And this is my son. He's one of the ones I run around for and I'm so busy. And he said,
oh,
"Mom, you've been running from what God has called you to do so long. Why
mm,
don't you just do it?" He said, just do it. And this is coming from the same one that I'm running around for. And it's like, it's so interesting. They're watching. They're not just listening, they're watching you. And what you do speaks more than what you say. And
mm,
so, if we want to raise our kids to be individuals and reach all of their goals and all the things that we raise them to want to do and just, kind of guide them towards, why are we not doing it? It's
mm,
like I'm sitting up here saying how my child is good at this, and I take them to this practice, and I'm involved in this thing for their team sport or their group, and then I'm sitting up here not doing anything. Like, what are you doing? And that's
yeah,
that's kind of what talking with him kind of brought me back to that self care. Like, what am I doing for me? I'm sitting up here sacrificing, and then I sit up here, don't do anything, give everybody else everything, and then I'm not using my gifts. Then I'm cheating God.
yes,
What am I doing for him? Just like Janet Jackson, what have I done for him lately? And that's kind of how I look at that. That's using your gifts to do nothing. If you're just, taking care of your family, that is a responsibility.
mm,
But he gave us gifts for a reason. He gave you a purpose for a reason. And you just sitting there is the same as a man putting the talents and burying them in the ground. What are you doing? So I just kind of a different perspective.
no, that's beautiful. First of all, your son is very wise, and I'm happy that he pushed you to be here. But I know you would
Yes.
have been here regardless.
Yes, of
And
course.
secondly, thank you for blessing us with your presence. And being here and educating us today. I understand, and I know our audience understands that it's a lot, balancing motherhood, entrepreneurship, career, and working and
Mhm.
all of those things at once,
Mhm.
and still being okay and being
Yeah,
normal, right? And
that's
still
right.
being and still being a fully functioning individual. I'm very happy that you shared it with us and that you're here with us today. So I'm very excited. You're not just a therapist, you're also an author. So I did review two of your books just to see what they're about. So can you
Okay.
tell us about your books? One of the books are The Voice Decline or Accept. Will you answer the call?
Mm,
So I'm going and the second one is Discover You, 6 Easy Steps to Find Your Purpose.
yes. I will start with the Discovering Purpose. I
Okay.
wrote that a few years ago, just helping people step into their purpose, letting go of procrastination, of fear, and just dealing with actual emotions that can prevent people from stepping into purpose, kind of
Mm,
empowering them to take control, not allowing distractions and things like that to prevent them. So I give them very easy steps to take that really you have to be disciplined to do that. But once you step out and you make the decision that you want to live a life of purpose and you're disciplined, it just kind of walks them through how to achieve that. And the second book, I am so excited about. Woo! I'm just like, it is like amazing. So it's really talking, it's a lot of short stories about
Mm,
what happens when you don't listen. And so there's multiple things that happen to people in stories that are true stories of when people don't listen, and then the difference when they do,
mm,
and how they keep hearing the voice, but they keep saying, let me do me. And then what happens when you do that versus someone who chose to listen.
mm. That's
So that's
powerful.
what it's
That's
about.
powerful. I know that sometimes we all have mind chatter. I call it mind chatter because it's,
Hmm.
you know, your mind is chattering, talking to you, and you're like,
Right.
how do I react? Am I really going
Right.
to listen to it? Am I going to internalize it? And I love that your book just focuses on that, but you give stories, right?
Yes.
In a way to allow your readers to envision and say, okay, do I
Hmm.
do this?
Yes.
And how can I apply these recommendations and steps
Hmm.
that you're giving to them throughout the book? So, how was the journey or the process in writing these books and getting them published?
So, you know what? I will be honest. It's like God just drops things in my spirit, and I feel
Mm,
so responsible. Like it is put on my heart, like, go do this. And I'm just like, now I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go do this. But it was a process of truly just letting God really take over the keys and just letting him speak through me. How
mm,
can I help people? Because I see people, it's so many people hurting, it's so many people confused. We're all looking to the TV and celebrities and all of this for who we are. And we don't even know who we are, but we know the stats of LeBron James, but you don't even know who you are. And so I just wrote these books as like a gentle guides to just take them one step closer to where they want to go. And
mm.
that's the reason I wrote the books.
That's beautiful and powerful. And thank you so much for blessing us with these books.
Yeah.
I've already purchased one of them, so I'm very interested and I'm definitely going to read it. The title that caught my attention is The Voice Decline or Accept. Will you answer the call? And I told myself, have you been answering the calls? And I was like, we're going to find out.
Yes, it is so
Yes.
amazing. It is, it's so when we quiet ourselves, you hear. It may not be what you want to hear, and sometimes it is, but if we can just slow down and just listen, it can take us to things that we only dreamed about. And he
Mm,
may be giving you the answer, but you're so busy in, thinking about what you want or in your phone or being angry that you're not listening. But I've had so many instances, which you'll see in the book soon, where you're just like, it's real. You can have the life of your dreams because God comes and he warns you a lot of times before destruction. The warning is before, but a lot of people don't listen. Will listen sometimes when it's something good, but when it's something negative, people, I'm
yeah.
gonna go. And it's
Yeah.
like, man, and it's like things happen from that.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes it's just not very good things that happen from not listening.
Yes, that is. Sometimes we can be really not listening to, as you said, God's voice or our blessings, right? And we
Hmm.
miss the message
Hmm.
because we're not present, or as you said, we're not listening or pushing
Yes.
ourselves, or fear is interfering, and
Yes.
we're not finding a way to
Connect.
address it and move
Hmm.
forward in
Hmm.
a way. So you emphasize the importance of listening to and being directed by the voice of.
Yes.
How has your faith?
I feel like it has influenced 100% because I feel like I allow God to speak to me. I listen, and I sometimes I'll tell something that they didn't even share with me because I am in tune spiritually with them because of what God is sharing with me. And I may provide a different perspective that they had no idea about. And so I truly have allowed myself to be a servant. And that's instead of creating answers and telling people what to do, I allow this God spirit to work through me to help them find their own answers. And that's what I feel like I connect life coaching, but I also use the Holy Spirit to create change and help
Mm.
people find answers that they probably wouldn't have if they hadn't maybe gotten a different perspective.
Yes, powerful. I love that. So for your clients that are looking to incorporate spiritual practices,
Mhm.
what would be your recommendation or guidance?
Slow down. I would say slow down and learn how to be alone, because that is
Mm.
where you're going to get the most information, the most spiritual downloads, the most guidance is when you are still.
Mm.
You know, we think we always have to be busy. I need to run, I need to go, I need to fix, I need to be, I need to do, I need to do. And sometimes just be. Allow yourself to pray and really pray. And I think prayer is when you talk to God, meditation is when He talks to you. So allow yourself to pray and meditate. Allow yourself to journal. Speak the things that you want. Like we know about affirmations, how powerful those are. And when those negative thoughts come, you just reaffirm them with something positive so you don't stay in that negative place spiritually.
Mm.
So really just getting in tune and being still with yourself and not feeling like I have to be doing something to attach. It's more of a not an isolation, but just feeling like let me go so I can hear. Because if you're
Mm.
looking outside and you're using your five senses, you can't connect. It's hard to really hear. But if you step away and you just are still and you shut out the world, you may get a business idea that's something you weren't even thinking about. And you're just like, what? Or you may get a solution to your problem or somebody else's, or peace and comfort that you wouldn't have gotten had you been looking at Snapchat or
Mm.
Facebook or YouTube. Just real talk. You got to be willing. And that's where that discipline comes from. You may not want to, but am I willing to give myself that time? Am I willing to give God that time where we can dialogue and He can let me know what's going on and I can let Him know what's going on?
I love it. I love it. I especially like the part where you said reading your affirmations, right? When you're having those negative thoughts,
Mm.
combating them by going back and saying, okay, let me fill my mind up with positive affirmations to
Mhm.
boost my self
Mhm.
esteem. And that's very powerful. As you said, you can do it many ways. You can read a flashcard with affirmations. You can even put the note on your window before you wake up and
Yes.
go to work.
Yes.
You can put it on your desk as a reminder. And that's something that I've been doing that has really made me be mindful about, okay,
Mhm.
checking those thoughts that you may have, because we all have negative thoughts. Does
That's
not
right.
matter who you are. And then looking at it and saying, okay, let me do the opposite. My mind just told me that I'm lazy. Am I really
Right.
lazy? Let me
Right.
analyze that. Have I been
Right.
lazy lately? No, I'm not really lazy.
Right.
But I could do this better. All right. Let me
Right.
read this affirmation to boost my self esteem so I
Mhm.
won't be lazy.
That's right.
And that's just an example.
Yes. You know, one thing I forgot to share with you too that
Hmm.
I also do myself and have clients do as well as my children. One thing that I've done to really get in touch with myself is I'll just stand in a mirror and look in my own eyes and tell myself how much I love me and how much I'm worthy and how special I am and how, amazing and how, just everything that you may feel like when those thoughts come, get in front of a mirror and tell yourself the truth because we've been believing a lie. There's nothing that shows that all those negative things are true. Why don't you get in the mirror and talk to yourself and tell yourself the truth and
Hmm.
start that reprogramming?
Yes. And I love that, right? Because we constantly get feedbacks and positive compliments from people in our life.
Mhm.
And this is literally just us doing that for ourselves,
That's
right?
right.
In times when we're not receiving the compliments, we got to
Mhm.
pour back to ourselves and give ourselves the compliments, because how are we going to be able to receive compliments if we never give that to ourselves?
That's
And
right.
affirmation cards, or just affirmations in general, are literally just that.
They are.
It's just creating your existence and creating the energy
Mhm.
before you go to sleep and before you step out of the house.
That's right.
So thank you so much for suggesting that. I just
Yeah.
remembered it. So what are some practical steps that people can take to elevate their mind and their lives?
You have to be intentional about what you want. First of all, what do I want?
Mm.
And then really removing everything that doesn't fit that and being disciplined to go towards what you do want.
Mm.
And I think those are the keys. They sound so small and so simple, but if you do it, it's amazing where you'll be in a year or even a month. it's like you're going to start creating those habits. And it's like, wow, and you let go of things that no longer serve you. And then you have a direction. I'm going there. And then you just stay on that path. And so those are some things that I think are really helpful.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you for giving us that very useful advice. So we're getting close to the end of this interview, but before we go, I have two more questions for you.
Yes.
How do you define living a life of purpose, abundance, and prosperity?
I truly feel like it's being in the flow
Hmm.
and feeling peace about it. Like you're intentional about what you want to achieve and where you are, and you're in agreement with God. And He shows you, it opens up doors, and you feel so much abundance and peace because you're in His will, you're doing His will. But it's like you feel a bliss and a peace, like you're in purpose. I'm being used the way I'm supposed to be used. I'm in agreement, really
Hmm.
coming into agreement and being in the flow and walking in that and working and being intentional and being disciplined in agreement with God.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited that I got the chance to speak with you today. Our audience got the chance to learn about generational patterns and ways to overcome that, and ways to patient with ourselves, and ways to be mindful of our behavior so that we
Yes.
don't extend those habits to our children and family members. So thank you for educating us on this matter today, especially when it impacts a lot of individuals and families today. These are the type of topics that are very important to discuss, but we just don't have these conversations often. And it's very powerful that you gave us the opportunity to do this today on our platform. So we want to thank you, Mishawn, for coming today and blessing us with your knowledge. And for our audience that want to connect with you, she's going to provide her information after I close this interview today. But thank you to our audience that been able to listen to today's podcast. This episode is very important because throughout our life, we go through a period of time of just feeling disconnected and feeling lost and feeling like we don't know how to overcome that or find a way to just find ourselves. But step one is listening to our voice, figuring out what's
Mhm.
the best option for us, right? And if anything does not serve us, setting the boundaries and disconnecting from those things and putting ourselves first. And as Mishawn has said, pouring back into yourself and really asking yourself, what have you done for yourself today?
Mm.
So thank you guys so much. But before we go, please let our listeners know how they can connect with you on social media, and if there's any blogs that you do and how they can tune into you weekly or monthly or daily basis.
Sure. Real quick before I give that information, I just this with the viewers. You are worth it. You're amazing. And I really want you to take a deep dive and realize you deserve everything that's on this earth. You deserve to live a life of abundance and prosperity. You are worth it. So
Hmm.
just learn yourself, let go of things that are holding you back so that you can achieve everything that you want to achieve. So, getting back to contact information, it is MishawnChilders.com. So that is my website. And I'm also, you can find me on Instagram on my website, Unlocking Your Potential Together on Instagram. And it's the same on Facebook as well. So I'm so excited. I just truly feel like I'm just ready to run and be like, let's go. I mean, let's get it. Do you know who you are? And I know that's too much. I have to just kind of pull it back and be like, oh my gosh, but I want to just like, you're amazing. So, but I'm so thankful. Thank you for having me today. I really have enjoyed this.
Thank you so much, Mishawn, for being on our podcast. It is a blessing to have you here, and we're very excited to have you back for our second season, which will be happening soon. So thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Please be sure to watch this episode and connect with Mishawn on the social media information that she gave you, as well as please be sure to click follow and like and share this episode with your family and friends, as this will impact them in a positive way. Thank you guys so much.